How goes the family? Welcome back to Larry's Anything Goes. Hopefully you guys are having a great day. Today's topic is going to be about African American tech founders in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Because, hey, we all know Silicon Valley is number one. Austin, Texas has become number two. But, hey, as being the great tech epicenters of the United States of America. However, look out, because people like Tristan Walker and Jewel Burke Solomon, Paul Judge, and other tech founders are taking part in their own startup revolution that's taking place in the Atlanta, Georgia area. So look out. All right, because they're forming their own versions of Google and other tech companies that you might not even recognize that you're actually using on a regular basis, And here they are, the people in question that I just mentioned earlier. Now, Mr. Walker, who is on, if you're looking at this video, should be the gentleman with the jean jacket. Mr. Walker, he's actually from New York City and owns a home in Atlanta now with his family. Mr. Walker launched a company called Bevel, the shaving system, which gears towards men of color. Mr. Walker actually worked in the tech industry by starting out as an intern at Twitter. I know that must have been very interesting. And he attended Stanford University Business School, very prestigious institution. He also made his name as a business development lead for Foursquare. Then he became an entrepreneur at a venture capital firm, and with Andreessen Horowitz, then raised about $30 million to create Walker & Company, a hair and skincare product company focused on solving the needs of people of color. As a rare black founder raising money on Sand Hill Road, he got a lot of attention, including a 2014 Fast Company feature, and smartly used it to raise awareness for his brand and advocate for inclusive hiring and product development in the Silicon Valley area. He also co-founded the not-for-profit Code 2040, which trains Black and Latino college students in STEM research and places them in certain parts of the Bay Area internships. Great internships. And that's what it's all about. Once you start doing great for yourself, you definitely want to give back, and it's like I said, it's not about giving handouts, but it's all about giving hands ups. Give people the opportunity to get a hand up in life so that they can progress out and do better than they actually are doing in their current circumstances. After a while, Mr. Walker decided to leave the West Coast and head to Atlanta, Georgia. It's a big thing. Most people that live on the West Coast, they actually either move to Phoenix, they move to Vegas, or they move to Atlanta or Houston. Texas nowadays, especially because either they're not feeling it or this because they can't afford it. So it just depends on your situation. But Mr. Walker, he has backing of Procter & Gamble. Because after he decided to move to the West Coast, and the main reason was for him, it was just that his company Bevel had his highest concentration of customers were actually per capita in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And since he had the backing of Procter & Gamble, which is a corporate infrastructure, including its $2 billion research and development budget, Walker is laying plans to learn from the nation's black capital and to send those findings back to his new parent company. Now let's move on to Jewel Burke Solomon, who's the young lady that is in the middle, and she actually sold her company PartPick to Amazon. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a big freaking deal. Not only when you sell your company for millions of dollars, but when you can actually sell a company to Amazon, that's a big freaking deal. Okay, and the beautiful thing is she actually kept it in Atlanta, Georgia. So let's give her a round of applause and give her a digital round of applause straight up for this young lady doing that, and not leaving her people behind. Mrs. Solomon's company PartPick is a customer version startup that Amazon bought back in 2016, and she also ensured to keep her team intact in the Atlanta area. The article also talked about how a lot of the black entrepreneurs that I read the other day in Atlanta are working with one another, forming more partnerships instead of just having a crabs in a barrel mentality. Because remember, group economics means you have to work with groups of people, groups of your own people. So if you're going to really practice group economics, practice group economics. Don't just try to do it all by yourself, because most people don't get that far. You see it with people who immigrate to the United States all the time. They work as a collective, cohesive force, and they kick butt every time they do it. And Mr. Paul Judge, who is a serial entrepreneur and who is a co-founder of Tech Square Labs, which has poured millions into some 30 seed stage companies that specializes in everything from blockchain and finance to marketing technologies. Everybody knows about cryptocurrency. The blockchain is a big freaking deal, and we live in a digital age where people are trying to figure out how to digitize more and more money, and how it's making it more easier for people to move around more and more money and invest more and more money. So that is a big business to be in, the financial tech industry. Mr. Judge, actually, who is the gentleman to the left with the watch and the suit on, if I didn't point that out earlier. Mr. Judge, Tech Square Labs has helped seed Atlanta's flourishing startup landscape. So all I can say when it comes to that is you get my respect on that one, Mr. Judge. And I say you, please, sir, keep up the good work, Mr. Judge is known locally as the godfather of tech. Mr. Judge grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, so definitely from the good old dirty South. And he draped himself in the power of the C prompt tool when his mother, as an instructor at a technical college, brought home a computer during his high school years. He received a computer science degree from Morehouse College, and then a doctorate in network security from Georgia Tech. So this guy is definitely a rock star. A lot of respect. The article stated that that the Cipher Trust in Alpharetta, Georgia, because this was a company in Alpharetta, Georgia, based. It was actually an anti-spam email service, but I think it's pretty cool. As one of its he was one of their first employees, and that company was acquired in 2006 for $274 million. Judge by then was its CTO. He saw his first seven figures, because he was a partner, not just an employee. He was a partner in that merger. And so that was a big freaking deal, even with that being said. And this is how it works. He thought, hey, he started and he sold two more companies, and he just kept flipping. It's kind of like Damon Dash says, he buys, he flips, he buys, he flips, he buys, he flips. And that's what Mr. Judge kept doing on a regular basis, And the companies he sold were called Smart Router, Maker, Luma, within a decade. Pindrop, it was his latest company, and he's recently raised about 90 million Series D round that included Mr. Andreessen Horowitz. And Mr. Judge is increasingly focused on promoting Atlanta's greatness as one of the world's biggest growing tech hubs. And obviously you hear a lot of relationships, a lot of going back and forth and dealing with multiple amounts of people in different companies, and I think that's an awesome thing to people need to really take it, in consideration. He was able to build stuff with his connections and what the article stated, his swagger. It makes him a great ambassador for the city of Atlanta. The city is ready to start up. He says, people will overlook Atlanta. He stated if Atlanta's story isn't told, and I'm happy to talk about Atlanta's current and future tech stories all at the same time. I've spent a lot of time in Atlanta myself personally, and it's one of my favorite cities in the South. But I'm not a big proponent of going deep South, but when it comes to going South, I love to go to Houston, I love to go to Atlanta, and I am definitely looking forward to going to New Orleans one day. Mr. Judge has recently acquired the A3C Music and Tech Festival, which is held every October in hopes of expanding into Atlanta's own SXSW. And his relationship with Andreessen seems to have solidified his role as something of a fiber optic cable running from the Bay Area to Atlanta, conducting crucial data about startup culture and strategy. So he goes back and forth. He's not just have everything, his roots in the ground in Atlanta. He constantly goes back and forth from the Bay Area back to Atlanta. And that's what you got to do. It's like we don't live in the 70s and 80s anymore. You can't just stay one place and because I have a good job here, this is it. You got to, even if you live in Atlanta, these people are still going back and forth to Silicon Valley, and they're probably going to other foreign countries too. I rember watching a video about these two young ladies who are in the hair care industry. They live in Atlanta, I believe. Yeah, they live in Atlanta, but guess what? They're going back and forth to China and Korea because they want to embrace and build relationships with Chinese and Korean companies, because they know that's who dominates the industry. So they're constantly going back and forth overseas, building relationships and seeing who they can get manufacturing relationships with people so they can actually buy their products and distribute it through their stores. That's a big freaking deal. And I think that's a lot of thing that people, especially African Americans, need to take into consideration. We live in a digital age. We live in a global economy. You got to start thinking digital. You got to start thinking more on a digital level, and you got to start thinking globally if you're really trying to take things to the next level. If you just want to be comfortable and have a job, then that's fine, but don't complain about the results of just having a job money, because that's what can happen. That's my personal opinion on that, and I'll leave it at that. Okay. So with that being said, remember that in business, you have to constantly keep building long-lasting, beneficial relationships. Mr. Judge is constantly going back and forth from the Bay Area to Atlanta, building relationships, attending co-op meetings, and he actually himself and his fiance Tanya Sam decided to actually leave San Francisco, which Mr. Judge said that it was a big moment for them, because that was the moment that they said that they are going to build for the next 20 years in Atlanta, Georgia. And actually, the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, stated that the city's focus on economic development, and they have made more of a choice to go after big tech business. And one thing to definitely take away from Atlanta, Georgia, is that there's so much more to the city than just awesome music, awesome movies, business, entertainment. And I think that's something that people should take into consideration when it comes to looking at the city of Atlanta. And hey, once again, my hat goes off to Mr. Tyler Perry for the studios that he has just opened. I mean, that's a big deal. Atlanta is exploding right now, and a lot of people are taking, the ones who are actually working hard and focused are taking advantage of it, because I know a lot of people moved from the West Coast and up north to Atlanta because it was much cheaper. But, do more than just work a job down there. Build. That's all I can say. It's nice to live in a cheaper city where your rent's not so high and the mortgage isn't so high. But it's even better when you can build something that's foundational, so your kids can not have to look for a job, but because of you've helped them become job creators. And that's why this article that I read the other day means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to you all at the same time. So that's just me keeping it real. On that note, there's so much more to take into consideration when it comes to Atlanta. Another thing to take into consideration when it comes to the Atlanta metropolitan area, also they have the second fastest growing economy in the country, right behind San Francisco. Now, remember, California is my state, so that's why I'm going to, not only because the article states it and it's a fact, but I do love California, and I'll leave it at that. Nothing against the South, nothing against Georgia, but I'm just going to call it like it is. They have people say what they want to say about the state of California, but the state of California has a great booming economy when it comes to jobs and whatnot, and when it comes to economic opportunities, even though it's harder because it's so expensive there. So it's like the gift and the curse. But anyways, I digress. In Atlanta, you have headquarters of Home Depot, UPS, Delta Airlines, the Coca-Cola Company, and Equifax. They're all headquartered in Atlanta. T-Willow, Salesforce, and Pandora have all recently set up outposts drawn by talent coming out of Georgia Tech and Atlanta University Center, the largest and oldest consortium of historically black colleges and universities. That's a big freaking deal. And I got to give a lot of respect to that, because nowadays you have a lot of corporations and even government agencies that are setting up shop outside of these institutions that they know are actually conducting research that they could utilize either for profit or for actual research to help out with any government operations that might be happening. So that to me is an awesome thing, and then it just brings more industry and opportunities to the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia all at the same time. So I think that's a great thing. The article stated that Atlanta is the best place for African Americans to build any business, and I read someplace in North Carolina. Charlotte, North Carolina is a great place as well. Burke Solomon stated, and I quote, tightening her black silk-like kimono over an olive green dress, because this is when this article was actually happened at a convention I was down there in Atlanta. She stated, and I quote, Atlanta is the last remaining chocolate city, which is true. She points out it is not but it wasn't such a subtle dig at Washington, D.C., which used to be a chocolate city and is no longer anymore. The people in Atlanta are not trying to have the same mistakes that happened in D.C. in regards to people moving out in big droves and more people have jobs instead of owning businesses, because gentrification didn't just happen overnight. It's been planned. And the thing is, those who own are the ones that make the rules. It's just what it is. You own the home, for the most part, you make the rules. Even if you have a mortgage on it, you still make the rules. If you own the lot, if you own the building, you make the rules. So it's just what it is. So it's like I always say to the people that I made a video months ago about gentrification in the South, and I said, and I quote, if you move down south just because it's cheaper and you don't have a plan to build, then gentrification will happen to you again, whether you believe it or not. I leave it at that. It's not even up for debate or discussion. It's just the facts. So I just had to throw my little 2 cents on that, because I love when people say, yeah, the States has less taxes or no taxes and all that good stuff. But if you don't have the right mindset, you can be gentrified out of there, because parts of Atlanta are being gentrified. Parts of Nashville and Houston are being gentrified, and Miami are being gentrified. And New Orleans has been gentrified. So it can happen to you, whether it's a cheap state or an expensive state. And thanks to people like them, they're building foundations. And that's what we need more of, especially in the African American community. So I do love that. You guys keep up the good work. There are people that are in Atlanta really trying to build something special, and it works. It's a work in progress, the article stated. And Atlanta's next generation of community builders includes Jewel Banks and her collab co-founders Justin Dawkins, Barry Givens, Joey Womack, founder of the social good accelerator Goody Nation, and Roshana Novelas, founder of Enrich Her, a crowdfunding platform for women-led businesses. So if you feel that you reside in a place that isn't really helping fulfill your true potential, then maybe look at this place like a city of Atlanta, or look at an Austin, Texas, or look at Miami, Florida, or look at New Orleans, Louisiana, Houston, Texas, Dallas, Texas, or maybe Los Angeles, or maybe Seattle. I'm not just saying just go all in when it comes to Atlanta, but what I am saying is, if you have goals and ambitions like I do, and like these people do, and you really want to implement them, and you reside in a place where people have the exact opposite mindset, then I would highly suggest you get out as soon as possible, like the movie Get Out. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Like always, remember, you can't get fired if you own the company. Check out Atlanta if you've never been. It's a great city, great people, great atmosphere. Still has a Southern hospitality, even though it's a very diverse place. And there's always something awesome going on. It's a very fun place to be. So I actually can't wait to go back to Atlanta one day. So hopefully you guys like the video. Please like, please share, check out the online store. And as always, have a great day and do great things. Take care.